Hey everyone, Kevin Cruz here. I'm the CEO and founder of LeadX. And welcome to our webinar, Top Tips to Manage Remote Employees. We're gonna get into all these things about, what I call the three team agreements, how to have the right cadence of communication, how to have a video first culture, all the things that you can do to make sure that you've got great team productivity and engagement, even with remote teams. LeadX, depending on how you've counted them, I've done about half a dozen companies. I've started about half a dozen different companies over the last 30 years, and they've all been sort of remote first, remote optional companies. So long before it was common, I used to always say, look, I don't care if you're spending all day at the beach in Florida with a cocktail in your hand, as long as your work's getting done, it doesn't really matter. And so we've been doing this, and LeadX, we're all remote. Occasionally we'll go into a WeWork space in Philadelphia that we have, but we're used to working remotely, and that's never stopped our culture from being strong, winning Best Place to Work awards, et cetera. And so I've never taught this topic before. And we are going to try to do it in a short format, mini webinar. We know time is of the essence. Everything we're doing here at LeadX, we're trying to do it from a place of service. We really are. I mean, our mission is, how do we spark the next 100 million leaders? And given all the experience we've had with remote work and the fact that there's a trend and now it's in the headlines a lot about remote work, we thought, let's be helpful. But even a week ago, it felt a little weird, like, is this going to just seem a little too salesy or something? Like we're just too promotional with this stuff. It doesn't really feel that way even 1 week later. So we're recording this, we're doing this live on March 6th. And just this morning, I woke up out of Philadelphia. I was gonna go to this conference in California that was scheduled for next week called the SaaStr Conference, big annual SaaS software tech conference. And every day they've been reaching out, hey, we're still on and we're gonna take your temperature and you're gonna wash your hands. We're gonna do all this stuff, no handshakes, we're still on. This morning, they canceled it. So everyone's supposed to arrive in 48 hours, and they just canceled it today. I'm out of Bucks County, Pennsylvania, is where my kid's school is. And I've always thought sort of like, look, let's all be cautious, but I think we're going to be okay with this. And even though there's no confirmed cases of the coronavirus, 5 schools in Bucks County this morning just shut down because a staff member was in contact with a confirmed case. So they're canceling. I spoke for our podcast. We do a LeadX leadership show. Bruce Daisley, who has a great new book out, Eat, Sleep, Work. And he was talking to his friends in the tech industry. And, there's all these companies that are saying, let's send everybody home. We're going to work from home. And you've probably been seeing this, Chevron, Twitter, Zoom employees, Indeed, JP Morgan. He's hearing that like the message isn't like, hey, let your team members work from home for a week or two until this blows over. That would be easy because it's like, all right, we're supposed to be working, but it's like a sick day. It's like vacation, like we'll get through it. He's hearing that the message to everybody is prepare your teams to work remotely for 90 days. And so you can't just do nothing, right? You need to figure out how to get these teams productive. And so all of a sudden, just even 1 week later, this topic doesn't feel at all like, hey, maybe we're trying to, leverage the crisis. It feels like this is a pretty common thing that people are going to be getting ready, in the very least, to do a remote work experience. Bruce Daisley again this morning, he's saying, hey, this is the tipping point for a work from home, a remote work culture shift, as everybody does it for 90 days and says, that wasn't so bad, or there's some advantages, let's keep doing it. And this certainly won't be the first, global, it's not officially a pandemic yet, whatever you want to call it. World Health Organization said this is going to become more and more common as globalization continues. Anyway, I don't normally open up our webinars quite in this way, but this is such a personal and an emotional time for us. And we were a little nervous about giving this webinar or doing this webinar, but take it for what it's worth. We've got a lot of experience in here. And we're just trying to offer, the tips that we have found helpful ourselves. Before I go any further, please don't be shy. Any thoughts you have, comments you want to contribute, questions, you can put them into the chat window. I will let you know, just reminder, you always have a choice. You can either say, send this chat to the panelists, which is me and my co-pilot Katrina, or all attendees. So if you want everybody to see it, you got to flip that toggle and do chat. I'm going to stay on and answer any questions I can. So don't hold those, just type them as you like. You can use the chat window. It's a little easier for me to spot them if you use the Q&A window, but I'll try to keep an eye on both. So don't be shy. For those of you who've done this, it's a little weird just kind of talking into my black monitor. So the more I can see some folks saying hi in the chat or offering up some questions or whatever, the better. And again, thank you for coming on and participating. Okay, so let's dive in. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm only going to spend one slide on this. Before we talk about managing remote teams, leading remote workers, I want to just touch on good practices and tips for working from home. So what your team members should keep in mind, even if they're not leaders of teams themselves. And I'm just going to, there's only one slide. I'm just going to talk to this very quickly. And we've created this one pager that within, I don't know, 24 hours, we're going to send you a link to the replay of this webinar and a link so you can download this PDF and you can just send it to whoever you want, in your company or whatever. And so, the top tips when you're working from home, some people, they like it. It's pretty easy. Others who need a little bit more structure, it's an adjustment. So we say, listen, if you're struggling at all, figure out a schedule that makes sense for you and try to keep to that schedule. Some sort of regular working hours. Designate a separate workspace. Don't just assume you can work from wherever, whenever. For me, literally right now, I'm in my home office in the basement. It's physically away from the rest of the house. And that just might be a nook in your bedroom with a desk, but have a place where psychologically it's time to work. I'm gonna go there. And in that spirit, just as you do going into an office, get ready at the same time, put on work appropriate clothes at the same time, and you'll get psychologically in the right mode. Now, a counterpoint to that, not everybody works great in their office. It could be noisy, it could be distracting, and at home there could be distractions, and whether that's the dog or the FedEx deliveries or other people that are in the house, or just the personal environment, some people will find that they will work better at a coffee shop, in the public library. And so we just say, figure out where that work environment is going to be, a place in your house, a place outside, and then stick to that. Taking regular breaks, embracing video calls. There's a lot more that we can do with video, and I'll be talking about that from management. But there's an idea here that you can help teach, you can help coach your team members to make this adjustment if they're not used to already working from home. I want to say, Kelly, thanks for saying you love this one pager. I'm glad. Again, we'll send this out to everybody. And John is saying, thanks for the talk. Will the video be available to download afterwards? Yes, we're going to send you this video, this one pager, and we've got another one pager I'll show at the end. That's going to be your top tips as a manager, as a leader of these teams. Thanks for playing along in the chat window. All right, let's do this. And it's going to be fast moving. It's going to be casual. We're going to cover a lot of ground. This, to me, is the most important thing that I've learned. 3 decades of working with remote workers. I call it the 3 agreements. It's basically a fancy way of saying you really need to set expectations. The reason why working from home feels far away, it isn't really the distance, because after all, we could be working from home, might be next door neighbors or just a mile away from the office. It's the lag in communications. So when we're all sitting in a physical office, even if it's bad for productivity and we shouldn't do it, if I need something, I just walk down the hallway and tap on your door and I ask the question and you answer, right? It's open door policy. Or I'll catch you before the end of the day. Or I look over at your cube and you're not there, but it's kind of around lunchtime. I'm assuming you're out to lunch. I'll stop back in an hour. It's very easy to catch each other and to communicate. When we're all off doing our own thing in different places, it's like, hey, where is everybody? Are they working? And if we don't get back to each other quickly, that feels like distance. That feels like a problem. So the first agreement is just, when will we be available to each other? When's the workday going to start and when will it end? And again, in an office, I tended to be fairly loose. I know that Robert likes to come in early, like 7:30 in the morning, but he kind of takes off at 4:30 to beat the rush hour commute. He's got a long drive. And I just kind of know that's what he does, and that's fine. Other workers, Carlos, they don't start their day till about 10 in the morning, but it's because he gets his kids off and, I don't know, sleeps in, who knows, who cares. But I also know when I'm leaving, he's still there, like he's working later. And I don't care that some people are working earlier, some are working later, because the bulk of the day, they're kind of there. I tighten up with remote workers. We just need to know. So whether that's 9 to 5 or 8:30 to 5:30 or whatever the normal working hours is for your team, you as the team leader want to say, look, we're going to talk this out, but we're going to come to an understanding that these are the hours that we're going to be available to each other for doing work. And again, there's no one right answer to that. It's just agreeing on it. Perhaps even more importantly is within that working time frame, let's just call it 9 to 5. How long will it take to get back in touch with each other? So whether I call you on the phone, send you an email, send you a message via Slack, what's the understanding? Is the understanding that, hey, you're my boss and you expect me to respond within 5 minutes, so you'll know I'm working, and everybody moves so fast that like, hey, we got to be on it, and boom, someone gets pinged, we got to respond within 5 minutes. That sounds like a little fast and a little productivity disruption to me, but I don't know your situation. Whether it's 5 minutes or 1 hour, or hey, we all agree to get back in touch with each other before the end of the day, everybody just needs to know. Otherwise, client calls and there's a problem that we need to solve. You call Kevin because Kevin's the one that knows how to solve it. Kevin doesn't pick up the phone. Kevin doesn't respond to the email in 30 minutes. Kevin doesn't respond to the email in an hour. Well, is this okay or not? All of a sudden you're feeling distance. You're feeling like this is a problem. So you just have to get that agreement. You can do what I like to do with these is also think about the mode. So if I send you an email, it would be great if you get back in touch with me in the next 24 hours. If I send you a message, a ping, it would be great if you get back to me by the end of the day. I almost never phone call without a scheduled meeting. I never phone call or text message my team members. So if I am, it means there's kind of a workplace emergency going on. Please pick up or return the call as quickly as possible. Third, final agreement is just, even though we've all got our expectations are locked in, just like we're going into a traditional workspace, we've got doctor's appointments, we've got dentist appointments, we've got sick kids at home, we've got to go get our kids from the bus at 4:30 or whatever it might be. All that still happens, and all that should be fine in a work from home situation. You just have to be extra vigilant about communicating it. So is it that, hey, I'm going to be at the doctor from 1 to 2 p.m. Do I just tell my boss? Do I just tell you? Or do I just tell the entire team? And is that through an email? Is that through a shared calendar? You'll notice with all of these tips, I actually think it's good advice for any team anywhere. It's not just about remote work, but it's extra important that you all are on the same page. Some people are very, it goes back to personality. I'm high in conscientiousness, so details, process, communication channels, like that's just natural to me. Like, well, of course. Other people who are more visionary, big picture types, they don't think in these ways. And a lot of leaders are more visionary. So just set these expectations down. I've got a comment from Anna Marie. I find instant messaging a great way to communicate instantly. Yes, in so much of our world, LeadX, we use Basecamp and they call them pings. A lot of people are on Slack. There's all sorts of messaging. I feel that messaging is effective at communication. It can also become overwhelming with productivity. Set those expectations down on that as well. All right, second tip, and I'll come back to more questions soon, and certainly I'll stick around at the end. What is your cadence of communication? I found the success of an entire company and certainly of a team is often predicated on the cadence of communication. A company cannot grow faster than the communication supply lines, I guess is a way to think about them. So again, no one right answer. It's just what is a cadence that works for your team, that's going to work for a remote team, and make sure everybody's on board with it. The cadence that has worked for me for a long time now, we do weekly one-on-ones. Now for myself, I like to batch things as a productivity secret. So Mondays are for meetings. Mondays are for meetings. I do a one-on-one meeting with each of my direct reports every single Monday. Typically it's a half an hour. If you were to look at my Monday calendar, which is on the screen here, you'll see every Monday at 11 o'clock, O3 stands for one-on-one. I'm doing my O3 with Beth. Then at 12, I'm doing an O3 with Katrina, 12:30, O3 with Vanya, O3 with Lucas at 3, O3 with Gary at 3:30. It's a great best practice as a leader anyway. This is their meeting, not yours. So you want them to have dedicated time to share with you whatever they need to share, ask your advice, ask your opinions. You want them to have time to give you advice and opinions. If they're not coming to the table with much on their agenda, then certainly you can use this time to give them effective feedback, to give them coaching, to check in, to build the relationship. You know, that's critical. So I feel like it's just even more critical to make sure you're not losing these touch points. So the first part of the cadence of communications is your weekly one-on-ones. Now, I also feel like a weekly team huddle is in order. I always call them war meetings. They're not violent. It just stands for weekly action review. And so again, we do now our weekly action reviews at 2 p.m. Everybody jumps onto a video call and we all take some time to go through like what was the big stuff from last week? What's our big to-dos this week? Do we have any problems? Do we have any data or customer feedback that's helpful? And we're all just kind of syncing up at the beginning of the week as a team. And then there's one other thing which I think is really important, big secret for remote workers. Every single day, all of us, myself included, we fill out this little, we just basically answer the question, what did we complete today? Now this screen grab that I'm showing you, it happens to be from Basecamp. So that's the team project management software we're using. I love Basecamp. Comes from the guys, 37 Signals. They're very well known, simple to use. I think there's even a free version. There's a certainly low cost version, but there's a lot of different team platforms out there. You could do this through email, just automatically schedule emails at the end of every day, 5 o'clock, whatever it is, 4:45. And if you say, what did you work on today? It's not quite as powerful because you just say the same answer every day. I'm working on the Jones report. I'm working on the Jones report. I'm working on the Jones report. When you say, what did you complete today? It kind of holds people a little bit more accountable. Like, how come I worked 8 hours and didn't complete anything? But it also gives a more meaningful answer. And we just bullet it out. And this is just a quick example. So moving right along, tip number 3, establish a video first culture. So what's the definition of that? A video first is an organizational communication strategy that places priority on video conferencing tools as opposed to audio only conferences. Now we all know this, right? So we're dialing into that conference call and it's just not that high quality communication because half of us forgot to mute, and so you hear me eating my sandwich and my potato chips and the dogs barking and all of that. The other people mute and you figure they're off working or not even there, you don't know. And you just lose a lot. You lose all those non-verbals. Of course, when everybody knows they're going on video or could be called upon to be on video, gives everybody an extra reason to get up at that normal time and shower up and shave and put on clothes or whatever. Gets the mindset right. But I also feel like when you know you're going to be communicating through video, and hopefully it's a richer experience, it's that thing where, if this was just going to be an audio dial-in, maybe I'll dial in while I'm driving back from, from the fast food store or whatever, because I just need to dial in, say hello, and go on mute. And then it doesn't matter where I am or what's going on. And, I'm distracted, I'm driving and everything else. When you're on video, you tend to think ahead, like, where's a quiet place I can sit down with decent bandwidth and decent lighting and let people see me. So encourage your team, or, certainly suggest it and model it. Video first as kind of the default. Now there's a crazy spin on this called all day video. And it's starting to catch on. I saw it the first time probably 10 years ago. I was in a software company in Manhattan, and for some meeting, I was walking out and I noticed all the programmers, they had their coding machine, but then there was another monitor with these little video, squares on it. And you could just see people doing stuff, but nobody was talking to these monitors. And I asked about it, and it turns out they had a shop in New York and a shop in Brazil, an office in Brazil. And as a way to kind of shrink the space, they were teamed up on projects, but across 2 geographic locations. And each side would leave the cameras on just so you could kind of see the physical people in your office and the remote people in your office in Brazil or in Manhattan, vice versa. And of course, you could always ping someone and then instantly talk to them as well. But you'll see, like in this photo, and I can't remember which workers these are, but they're using separate tablets to just kind of leave the cameras on separate from their workspace. Just another idea on video first. Okay, now this is one of the harder ones. It's harder to keep things personal in a remote work environment. And keeping it personal is a good thing. Work relationships are important. The classic Gallup Q12 employee engagement survey, one of the highest predicting questions of whether someone's engaged at work is, I have a best friend at work. And it doesn't mean your best friend in the entire world happens to be in your office. It means, like, at work, you've got a friend, someone that, you like, who likes you, that you can turn to. Relationships, personal relationships, are a big part of a foundation of trust. And as we know, trust is a top driver of employee engagement. Trust is required for productivity. Trust and positive relationships will reduce, so much of the gossip, the politics, the workplace conflict. So how do you keep it personal? How do you keep personal relationships thriving in a remote work environment? And, one simple way is, I talked about those weekly war meetings that we do. I mean, we typically will start those by just going around on the team and saying, and sharing. I'll say, hey, Katrina, what was the best part of your weekend? So she gets to share something fun or whatever that she was doing over the weekend. And again, we do it on Monday, so that question's kind of natural. But you can always just say, hey, share something great that's going on in your personal life. And it just helps people to talk about their kids or whatever they watched on TV, or a movie they're excited to see, or a new exercise milestone that they hit, whatever that might be. It's just that little bit of a personal connection. The other thing is to create kind of the digital water cooler. So the classic thing in a physical office is, of course, we're all work, but then we bump into each other when we're going for a cup of coffee, when we're going to get a cup of water, when we're going to sit down in the cafeteria or the lunch area. So how do we replicate that? And again, like in Basecamp, we've set up where once a month, everybody gets sent this message, read any good books lately? And you can see here, Gary on my team has added 2 books that he's read recently. You could set this up for, Game of Thrones fans or whatever it might be, sports teams or hockey or whatever. The idea is, how can we start to share some of our personal lives and in a common interest kind of way? Another way is, we're all remote. Don't forget to celebrate a little bit. And this is an example where, this is a real one just recently. I mentioned Katrina's co-piloting this. It was her birthday recently. She took a couple days off and hiked down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon with some of her friends. Yes, you should all be friends with Katrina. Maybe she'll invite you along next time she goes on these crazy, cool outdoor things. So when she came back, you know, I just encouraged her in base camp, it's called Campfire, but in like this common area. I'm like, hey, post up some photos that you took from your trip. And she had a whole series of great photos. This is just one of them. And then you'll see that encouraged people to comment on her photography, ask her about her trip, wish her a happy birthday. So again, there's some non-work, fun, personal elements. And then when it comes to recognition, this is where I think it's even more important on a leader. First of all, most of us as leaders, most of us as managers, we stink when it comes to recognition. Recognition is a top driver of employee engagement. Doesn't cost money, doesn't take a lot of time. Most of us are horrible about it. We're so focused on our tasks, on getting things done, we forget to slow down and actually have an attitude of gratitude and to thank people around us for their efforts or their achievements. This is, again, a real example. February 25th, we were working with a client and we finally released a new functionality for the LeadX software, single sign-on. Been meaning to do it, hadn't gotten to it, needed a rush job to meet this client deliverable. They emailed me to give acknowledgement to our CTO, Lucas, all these comments about what a great job he did and the pressure and the time. Well, it would have been easy for me to be like, yep, you know, that's what he's paid to do, or yeah, of course, or yeah, that's nice, or even to say to Lucas, hey, good job, Lucas, I heard you really delighted them, thanks. But instead, I copied the great comments from the emails and then again, shared it back to the entire team. Certainly made Lucas, you know, I think feel pretty good about it and people, you know, congratulated Lucas. But it was also, again, just sending this signal to the team like, hey, there's a lot of good stuff going on. We can't see it day to day because we're all just in our own homes or Starbucks or wherever we're working away. It's not as easy to see it. You know, hey, did you hear we just finished the SSO thing? Hey, did you hear about what that client sent over? So you just have to amplify that and be very intentional. Finally, tip number 5, tools and techs. We're just about wrapped up here. Look, anyone who's using laptops, you really have what you need to work from home. Most laptops now have the camera, they have a microphone, they're wireless. Most people now have Wi-Fi in their homes. You're probably good to go. But if your team members have to work from home, and this is more than like a 1 or 2 week experiment, I would strongly encourage your organization to somehow find the budget to give them some additional tools that really will help remote productivity. So that might be an external monitor or even a external mouse if that you don't have them. It means getting good video conferencing software. We love Zoom, but Skype, Google Hangouts, Microsoft Teams, a lot of these are free or built into your operating systems. Project management software, we love Basecamp. There's a lot of other ones, Asana, Hive, all affordable or very, very low cost. And then look, if you're really gonna be getting into this, I mean, it sounds crazy, but sitting in a chair all day long at the kitchen table, that kitchen table chair, that dining room table chair probably is not a good working chair. So do you need to support your workers with a comfortable, ergonomically sound chair? Do you need to help them upgrade their bandwidth? And it's, boy, you wouldn't think you'd have to do that, but I know I hate, even with the video, if a team member is somewhere and there's the lag and it's jumping and they're coming in and out, you don't even want them on the meeting. It's such a hassle, such a headache to try to understand what they're saying. That will not work. So it's one thing to kind of like tell people to work from home and, hey, you got a laptop, you should be just fine. The reality is, if this is going to be a long-term thing, organizations might have to ante up a little bit of new dollars, $100, $1,000 per employee to help them to invest in a nice workspace. Everything I just covered, you're going to get this entire video sent to you as a replay. But we've also created this one-pager, tips for managing remote workers, set expectations, cadence of communication, video first, stay focused on goals, make it personal. You're going to get a link to download that. Feel free to just send it to whoever you want. If you follow us on LinkedIn or follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever, you're going to see links to download these things. We just want to help people with this very important experiment about, staying productive remotely. And I will say, for those of you who were not previously familiar with LeadX, this training and about 1,000 other courses are all sitting in the LeadX mobile app. So LeadX is an app that's designed to help you to stand out and get ahead at work, how to be a great leader. It includes a library of book summaries, webinar archives from famous productivity and leadership gurus, hundreds of micro-learning videos. There's even a personality assessment and an AI-powered coach who will send you nudges to help you to stand out and get ahead. There's a 7-day free trial. I hope you'll check that out. This training and more, obviously this is going to be a hot topic for a while. We'll just keep putting into the library. All right, everybody, we've run a little bit long. Thank you again for participating, your questions, your answers, and please feel free to share with all the managers in your organization, friends, upload it to social media, whatever you want to do, because let's hope that this is all just an abundance of caution, but it feels like a lot of organizations are getting ready to do this work from home experiment. Be well, have a great weekend, and I'll see you soon.